this is what theaters look like across the world, and it just keeps getting worse. The memes. Let's say that you were in a Hollywood movie, and the trailer for that movie dropped on YouTube, and it instantly became the #1 most downvoted trailer in the history of the platform.
The other side, what's the dwarf?
Dwarf refers to a person with one of several varieties of a specific genetic condition called dwarfism. A dwarf has disproportionate body parts.
Both the possibility of a significant success and the possibility of significant backlash were present from the time the live-action Snow White adaptation was revealed. Disney had long depended on the promise of contemporary storytelling and audience nostalgia to inspire new film endeavors with its renowned animated library. But many fans and critics felt that something was wrong as soon as the film's production facts emerged.
It was so outdated, and how Rachel Zegler disrespected the original, and a classic from Walt Disney, something that completely saved Disney and changed the company and changed animation in general.
They pointed out significant changes from what had made the first Snow White such a cherished classic, and they were concerned that a hurried attempt to adapt the tale to modern tastes would cause more controversy than excitement. These worries seemed warranted by the time the film finally debuted. Both traditional and online critics were expressing dissatisfaction with the final product, and the box office results were surprisingly low.
And now, as Disney desperately tried to do a PR spin job in the final months to make it look like Rachel Zegler is actually likable, it ultimately was a complete failure.
Disney's CEO, Bob Iger, came out of retirement to steer the company once again, but by the time Snow White hit the scene, he found himself facing a storm of challenges. Attendance at Disney's theme parks wasn't hitting the highs of previous years, signaling trouble for one of the company's biggest revenue streams. Meanwhile, some of Disney's streaming ventures were bleeding money, raising concerns among investors. On top of that, backlash was mounting over the studio's creative choices, with critics growing louder by the day. Amid all this turbulence, Snow White emerged, featuring two powerhouse stars, Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, making the film an even bigger focal point in Disney's ongoing struggles.
She continued celebrating herself by posting that she's in the #1 movie in the world, which is a remarkable thing to post when you are the laughingstock of an entire industry. This is what narcissism looks like. Narcissism for 200.
While preserving the essence of the original, Disney probably wanted to bring back the charm of the 1937 classic in a way that would appeal to younger audiences. Rather, the film was quickly labeled a box office bust, an unfortunate outcome for a property that had historically represented Disney's first and most enduring animation triumphs.
Theaters are, of course, entirely empty. Do understand that having people buy tickets is an important part of success in your industry.
Much of the controversy surrounding Snow White revolved around how it handled key plot and character issues. While some viewers understand and even encourage unique reinterpretations, many felt that this translation went too far away from the basic identity of the fairy tale. Changes to the dwarfs, princess characterization, and tale landscape have left fans confused or upset.
And it is actually so bad that Rachel Zegler decided to post a video of herself in a theater. Maybe I think she bought that ticket right there.
Beyond such adjustments, the film's technical quality was simply lacking. Critics noted the film's lackluster directing, dreary photography, music, and overall feeling that the production was unclear of its own tone and message. Rachel Zegler was at the heart of the controversy. Although she had already gained recognition from prior high-profile appearances, Snow White exposed her to a level of attention she may not have previously encountered.
Decided to film herself in a theater totally empty, giggling, tee-hee-heeing with total glee.
Everyone appeared taken aback by the extent of the backlash, which led to a series of negative effects on Zegler's career. Disney allegedly denied her future possibilities, including a voice role in the next Toy Story 5, where she had been called Spiral, according to many insiders. Additionally, there were reports that she was first hired for a Pirates of the Caribbean reboot, but was fired before the project was completed.
Look at this. Look at this face. What can be said about this level of narcissism here?
Despite the fact that the reboot's prospects were bleak from the start, Zegler's abrupt departure sparked headlines and online speculation that the entire project would be abandoned or altered once more. Throughout the turmoil, Zegler's own words exacerbated the negative news. During the actors' strike, she advocated for compensation for cast members every time a film was seen on Disney+. His proposal drew a lot of mockery and allegations of entitlement, especially since pay-per-click residuals have never been used to that extent in Hollywood normal practice. Although many acknowledge that the industry's pay structures certainly require revision, particularly in light of streaming platforms' ongoing transformation of conventional business models.
In the greatest Disney box office bomb in the history of Disney live-action remakes, but certainly also the end of her career.
Zegler's position was perceived as taking the idea of securing residuals too literally or naively. She also faced harsh criticism for mentioning that she had to wear the Snow White outfit for as long as 16 or 18 hours every day. Proven players and backstage staff spoke up, telling out that although these lengthy hours are undoubtedly taxing, they are typical for large-scale performances.
Bliss of total stupidity and narcissism. Look at the bliss. On some level, it's got to be a blessing to just be so smooth-brained.
When it comes to roles that require elaborate costumes or intricate hair and makeup, the process is never easy. It's practically a transformation. But instead of evoking sympathy, her complaints rubbed some audiences the wrong way. To them, it seemed less like an honest struggle and more like someone who didn't fully grasp the realities of the industry, despite having already worked on major Hollywood productions. And then, just when things couldn't get any worse, Zegler's attempt to defend the film backfired spectacularly. Rather than rallying support, her remarks came off as dismissive, almost as if she was taking a jab at past versions of the beloved Snow White story. That didn't sit well with longtime fans, and the backlash was swift.
This is what theaters look like across the world, and it just keeps getting worse. The memes.
Her praise of the new rendition as the best and bravest version of the character was met with opposition from longtime fans of the 1937 Disney classic, who saw it as a direct insult to a movie that was a pillar of Disney's legacy. Her comments were also seen by others as disparaging alternative retellings, including the original folktale by the Brothers Grimm, the Kristen Stewart reworking, or the comedy Mirror Mirror, which starred Lily Collins.
Rachel Zegler watching Snow White in an empty theater. Rachel Zegler is watching her box office flop, Snow White, in an empty theater. The level of delusion should be studied, actually.
As a result, it seemed as though Zegler had tunnel vision over her own performance, which added to the animosity already there in the movie. Rumors circulated that companies outside of Disney were reconsidering their interest in hiring her for future films as these disputes grew more widespread. There were rumors that Warner Brothers had cut her from a political thriller, and Blumhouse Productions had reportedly pulled her from a new horror trilogy.
The look of people, like, does this actually look like a happy person? It's always in the eyes, man. It's always in the eyes. If you cover up the mouth and you look at just the eyes, no, you see evil, in fact.
She had been due to play a significant supporting part, but online talk quickly painted her as effectively sacked from Hollywood, though the reality is likely more nuanced. Hollywood deals fail for a variety of reasons, including budget cuts and creative shifts. However, when similar falls occur in quick succession, the result can ruin the actor's reputation, giving the impression that she is too contentious a figure for studios to consider hiring.
YouTube unseats Disney, Nielsen's TV distributor rankings. YouTube hit a record of 11% of all TV viewing. Well. Disney is dying.
Commentators, particularly those on social media and YouTube, quickly started framing Zegler's situation within a much larger narrative. They pointed out that she wasn't the first high-profile celebrity to face backlash. Icons like Robert De Niro, Alec Baldwin, and George Clooney had all sparked controversy with their bold political opinions and unfiltered statements. Similarly, stars like Julia Roberts and Meghan Markle had also stirred strong reactions, proving that when it comes to public figures, the line between admiration and criticism is often razor thin.
And at this point, Americans have rejected it. So not only the critics also didn't really like it all that much. 42% as a critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes, 1.7 out of 10 on IMDb.
Wait, was that a 74%
Audience
fans
score?
The concern was whether Rachel Zegler, with her young age and tiny filmography, could withstand the same level of criticism without long-term damage to her career trajectory. Disney struggled to save Snow White through damage control. Bob Iger, famed for his typically astute brand management, found himself trapped, despite the fact that the corporation has weathered many challenges in the past.
Now, if there's one thing to be gleaned from this, it's actually the sheer quality of the negative reviews. So let me read you some quotes. It says, "I paid nothing to watch the trailer, but I want my money."
Oh, that's nice. Nice job.
Anger at several Disney actions seemed to fuel early anti-Snow White sentiment. The studio stated that the picture will acquire momentum and was better than reviewers had thought. Social media and box office numbers seemed to disagree.
And funny, this is a joke I made years ago, but if they streamed it on an airplane, I would still walk out.
Yes, that's
an old joke.
That's theft.
Rachel Zegler herself attempted to promote the film on social media, claiming it was the world's top film. Verifiable ticket sales data contradicted their assertions, prompting many internet viewers to cast doubt on them. Aside from that, the movie's advertising strategy was mocked.
With Snow White, let's go through this, right? There's no prince. Woman doesn't need a prince.
Oh, Lord.
Really? Okay, good
Shut
luck
up.
back then. It's just so stupid. Like, of course you do.
TV commercials aimed at showcasing lighthearted moments or playful interactions with the dwarfs completely clashed with the cloud of negativity surrounding the production. One especially cringeworthy ad featured Dopey enthusiastically announcing that audiences were rushing to the theaters, only for the dwarfs to sluggishly shuffle forward in an exaggerated, almost mocking slow-motion gag. Online, viewers wasted no time roasting the attempt, with many labeling these 7 characters as downright bizarre.
Doesn't need a prince to save her, and not surrounded by 7 weird people. Oh, okay, just CGI fictional goblins, I guess.
The entire scenario was unnerving to longtime Disney fans. Disney is renowned for its well-maintained family-friendly image and skill at showcasing its film products in an elegant, user-friendly way. However, in this case, the brand seemed weak, even stumbling. Snow White has come to represent more significant problems facing the business. There have been questions about whether Disney prioritized social messaging above storytelling.
And then she came out and said that, what did she say? That she had no empathy for Trump voters.
Worries that popular content was being steered in directions that went against what people initially enjoyed about it, as well as worries about out-of-touch actors. Rachel Zegler remained defiant in spite of everything. She insisted that the movie gave a strong variation on a well-known character, and she kept praising her performance in it. That unyielding position occasionally exacerbated the reaction rather than reducing it.
Crazy about this is Disney has been so careful and controlling for a long time as far as the narrative and protecting their brand.
The dismissal of their cherished memories was felt by those who had grown up seeing the original Snow White or who had appreciated other live-action versions. Zegler unintentionally alienated some who had thought that the live-action adaptation would honor previous versions rather than diminish or replace them by discounting them. The story's recurrent lessons include how quickly Hollywood fortunes may change. An actor can shift from being a highly regarded breakthrough star to being blamed for the failure of a major production. Disney most likely relied on Zegler's popularity, youth, talent, and social media following in the Snow White case to appeal to a younger audience. However, the combination of unfavorable reviews and her own public persona resulted in her being portrayed as a warning about how quickly one may be written off if a production doesn't live up to expectations.
I get it, there's a difference between spoiling and whatever, but to go out and badmouth everybody and talk smack about, older movies in the same franchise, the canon story, I guess?
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. I feel like they would have had better control over that.
The Snow White controversy also raises the question of how it represents more significant changes in the entertainment sector. Contentious discussions over how to adequately compensate performers, writers, and other creators have arisen as a result of streaming's confusion of the financial environment. More than ever, fan communities are vociferous and have access to social media campaigns that have the power to quickly change public opinion. In turn, studios struggle to adapt beloved tales into fresh cultural settings while preserving the qualities that first made them appealing. Audiences react angrily when they don't achieve the proper balance, occasionally with massive boycotts or harsh online criticism. The film's critics characterized it as both sloppy and over-polished, as if the filmmakers had attempted to update the narrative, but had instead produced a confused work. They noted that the tone was erratic due to the conflict between the need to promote new topics and stay true to some nostalgic characteristics. While some scenes felt like half-baked attempts at social commentary that didn't come together into a cohesive story, others followed the Disney template to the letter. Instead of combining the greatest aspects of both worlds,
You can talk, you can say you work a job, whatever. You cannot talk about trade secrets and certainly not compromise our investigative journalists in the field. What, so no free speech? These people could get shot.
neither purists nor those yearning for a daring reinvention were satisfied with Snow White. From a purely commercial perspective, good ticket sales are expected to fuel merchandise, theme park tie-ins, possible sequels, and further brand extensions for every significant Disney production. However, that cycle can be broken by a poor box office debut and weak word of mouth, leaving executives concerned about how to recover marketing and production expenses. How to lessen the harm to one's finances and reputation soon becomes the question. Many are influenced by the first wave of opinions, while some fans may use streaming to give a bad movie another chance. It is difficult to change the tide if that wave is primarily negative. The matter was probably made worse by Rachel Zegler's social media presence. It is expected of the current star to stay in close contact with their followers, something that previous Hollywood stars were not required to do.
I think this is their policies coming back to bite them. They went woke.
Yeah.
She went out and said stuff woke that was going to hurt the film. They couldn't come out and go against her because then you're going after somebody for saying what you say you believe.
The power to talk unfettered on Twitter or Instagram can be a double-edged sword. Fans like honesty, but it also increases the possibility of off-the-cuff remarks that can fuel conflicts and put the artist at odds with an even bigger pool of viewers. If an actor is already seen as dismissive or insulting, making extra criticism can merely deepen that image rather than address it. Compounding these impacts are the myriad voices in the internet discussion realm. YouTube stars, entertainment bloggers, and casual onlookers, excitedly scrutinizing every new bit of information. Once a bad narrative takes root, each subsequent comment or rumor can reinforce it, sometimes overshadowing any great elements the film may have had. In Snow White's case, the conversation moved from real expectation to broad displeasure. The focus switched from the film's content to the ways in which Disney and its star actress handled the criticism. As for Disney, the firm faces a problem. Forging ahead with recreated classics is part of its brand strategy, but repeated underperformances in that sphere could indicate disaster. They've done well with some prior live-action adaptations, but others have fared below expectations or provoked controversies of their own. After Snow White's response, Disney may have to reevaluate how aggressive it wants to be in changing classic narratives. The unfavorable attention around this initiative could serve as a reminder that audiences do not mindlessly embrace any modern modification, especially if they detect a cynicism or a lack of true love behind it. While Bob Iger has navigated rough seas before, he supervised Disney's purchases of Pixar, Marvel, and Lucasfilm, guided them to unprecedented financial success. This era brings new obstacles. Consumer spending is impacted by inflation, streaming competition is intense, and social media can magnify backlash at a never-before-seen speed. When cultural controversies surround its projects, even a well-known company like Disney can find itself in a precarious position, and Snow White became a prime example. The future of Rachel Zegler in this environment is still up in the air. She had previously gained attention for her performance in West Side Story, where she displayed both vocal ability and on-screen presence. Her achievements, however, could be overshadowed by the rapid succession of firings, including her purported expulsion from Blumhouse's horror trilogy and other rumored projects. Actors have been known to receive second chances from Hollywood if they are able to reinvent themselves or give a particularly strong performance in a later movie. Zegler's ability to do so will depend on how well she can mend her public image and reestablish connections with studios. Depending on how the cultural environment changes, her uncompromising position on some subjects may also work against her or in her favor. In some places, she might have a sizable following if viewers start to see her as a fearless advocate for equitable pay and varied narratives. However, she runs the risk of turning into a sort of emblem of entitlement, a term that is hard to remove once it is applied, if she keeps coming across as hostile or ignorant about her own profession. The Snow White disaster will not be soon forgotten because of the convergence of all these threads. Disney's reputation, Bob Iger's plan, the development of streaming income models, Rachel Zegler's career, and the challenge of how to modernize a classic. It serves as a warning about the dangers of making too many drastic changes to a beloved story or of ignoring the fervor of a fan base that can be a movie's strongest supporter or worst enemy. The story also emphasizes how crucial it is to strike a balance between diplomacy and freedom of speech, particularly when hundreds of millions of dollars and the meticulously maintained reputation of one of the most well-known entertainment businesses in the world are on the line. Instead of accepting this new rendition, many people have turned back to earlier iterations of the story, seeing the 1937 movie again, or looking into more accurate live-action alternatives. The whole thing has caused Disney to reconsider how it handles Snow White, and maybe other versions that are currently in development. Fans wonder whether the lessons learned from this experience will guide future projects, or if Disney will continue to push reboots that don't connect with the same audience that made these stories classics in the first place in an effort to maximize short-term financial gains. If Rachel Zegler's return is successful, it may be evidence of Hollywood's ability to forgive and remake itself. On the other hand, if her fame keeps waning, her story can be mentioned alongside that of other celebrities whose careers took a sharp turn after too many controversial headlines. In either event, her career and Disney's current growing pains will be widely monitored by watchers anxious to see how the entertainment industry adapts to this era of real-time fan input, social media criticism, and ever-altering financial realities. For now, Snow White stands as an instructive episode in Disney's long history, a misfire that triggered discussions about the boundaries of creative freedom, respect for source material, working conditions, payment structures, and the complicated interplay between corporations and individual performers. Even if the narrative eventually becomes another footnote in the company's huge repertoire, it will certainly remain a striking reminder of what can happen when audience trust and devotion are taken for granted. And in that sense, whether one found any redeeming qualities in the final film or not, the lessons learned from this chapter could shape not only how Disney proceeds with future live-action experiments, but also how actors like Rachel Zegler approach the delicate balancing act of modern movie stardom.